The second way is like keep your ego aside, say that you're dumb, go ahead and talk to your data scientist. Because if you don't have intuition, right, it's really difficult as a product manager to make decisions on when a product is being built.
User trust their own gut when they're searching for a particular product. It is hard to differentiate between the real stuff and the noise.
Enough cash to experiment,
Okay.
enough cash to burn upfront.
Hey everyone, this is Varun Pandey and welcome back to another episode of Ignition, which is all about you and AI. Here we call upon product, tech, and AI leaders to discuss about how AI is going to shape our future with the people who are actually building it. And today I'm joined by Mr. Ravi Teja, who is Senior Product Manager at Walmart, an ISB MBA grad, and has previously worked at Flipkart also. He leads AI initiatives there. This episode is going to be very interesting. So let's dive in.
Yeah,
Welcome, Ravi. Great to have you here. How are you feeling?
thank you. Good to be on online. I mean, I've been consuming a lot of podcasts, so not been on many. So yeah,
Okay.
it's exciting. Yeah.
Okay. Great, great, great. From being an engineer to a ISB MBA grad to leading Walmart product team, what sparked your interest into the world of product management actually? And there's certain moment of truth every product manager has, which sort of takes you to this world, right? That this is what I want to do, and this is what where I get the kick from. So, what was your version of story of it? If you could tell us about your journey.
Yeah, yeah, sure. So I actually by in my undergrad, right, I was not in computer science department. I was in electrical department, but I was always interested in software generally, because I was reading a lot of stuff. Like I was reading books like Steve Jobs. I was reading
Mm,
the Google story. So
mm,
being in tech is what I always wanted to be. So the choice that I took is like after my undergrad, I went into computer science. So I went into software. I
mm,
was doing that for 4 years, but I got bored doing whatever I was doing because see,
mm,
as a software developer, you get to build things, but you don't get to actually decide on what is the right product to build. So the taste side of the thing is where you kind of lack, right? Especially
mm,
when you're working in an MNC, generally what ends up happening is you'll mostly be implementing, what you're asked to build. So
mm,
I was kind of lacking that excitement in what I was doing it for 4 years per se. So initially it was exciting for the first 2 years, and then it started kind
mm.
of I wanted to do something bigger. I wanted to do something different. So honestly, I didn't exactly know product management is what I wanted to do because I don't even have idea of something like product
It's
management
almost story
existing.
of every product manager. They actually don't know
Yeah,
until they land up there, right? What exactly the
so that is what I don't even know that something like product management actually existed like in the
mm,
initial days of my software development journey, because in my first company we don't have product managers, so
okay,
the calls were taken by different teams. So
okay, okay.
then I was just exploring what do I do, like what are the ways for me to to join, to have a role where I can have more impact. So that I was
Mm,
broadly, that was my goal. So I was just exploring, and I thought I should move on from here, and I'm not sure what do I do. So some of my friends were planning for MBA, typical
mm,
engineer journey of after 3 4 years you go into
mm,
MBA and figure out something. So my
mm.
friends were doing that, and I thought again I had no idea why I want to do an MBA, but I just want to give it a try.
Okay.
One thing I'm sure is that if you get into a good MBA school, you'll get exposure to a lot of things. So I
Mm,
think I thought like that exposure will drive me somewhere. That is
mm,
the only motive I had. So I
mm,
prepped for MBA and I got into ISB, and ISB has been an eye opener. So that is where I actually, after getting to ISB, I got a lot of exposure into what
mm,
product management is,
mm.
what operations,
ISV
what
is
strategies,
known
and
to actually dish out a lot of product manager in general, right? Especially it being in Hyderabad, so a lot of folks go to, Salesforce and Microsoft, right?
right. ISB, yeah, historically has been good for consultants and product management person. And in the last, I think the whole craze for product management also started in the probably 7 8 years. So
Mm, right.
that is when I started dishing out a lot of product managers.
Mm,
It's because people. come to ISB with an expectation to become a product manager. So
Okay.
the percentage of cohort that wanted to become a product manager out of ISB has kind of grown significantly lately.
Hmm.
At least interactions with the newer cohorts also, it is more than what it was in my cohort as well.
Hmm.
So
Right.
yeah, yeah, got into ISB. That is when I got first sense of what product management, because there are some product managers in our cohort as well. So talking to them, understanding, so and I felt like, okay, this might be the role where I might be closer to what I wanted to do.
Hmm.
And there were other roles, but I also always wanted to stay closer to tech. So product management is one area where you get to do strategy, but you also stay very close to tech. So
Right.
that is why I like chose done. Okay, there are all these other things, but let me explore product management as an option. So during
Hmm.
placement, like went for product management placements, and fortunately got into Flipkart. So
Okay.
that is how I made whole transition of journey into product management happened.
Okay, okay, okay. Talking about product management, did it actually feel like the way you actually dreamed about it in the sense with regards to impact and all that, which we are talking?
Uh, I I would say it's 60% there. There the dimension of product management which I wanted to do, like
Hmm.
thinking about what customers, thinking about what is the right product to build and all was there. But
Hmm.
the thing that was not expected but unexciting part of product management is execution, right? Like when you actually get
Hmm.
into a role, it's not about just conceiving an idea or like, building a product. It's also
Hmm.
executing it to launch. So that not so exciting part of product management hit me by surprise.
Hmm.
But yeah, uh,
Yeah.
uh,
When
but
we say
yeah,
execution, is it about the stakeholder management part and going live part, the bug part, and that part of product management, right? Specifically.
see, yeah, the whole it all starts from the whole planning roadmaps, the quarterly planning,
Hmm.
sprints,
Right.
all the execution part, very unsexy part of product management.
Yeah.
I think that's where I realized, okay, it's not all flowers and petals. There's also thorns that you will
Yeah.
have to take it. So yeah, that wasn't doesn't sound very exciting, but yeah, it's your job to uh, make the ship sail. So you as a product manager have to do everything that is needed to make your product successful. So
Right. Right.
yeah, new things I learned after joining Flipkart as a product manager. Yeah.
Right. Right. So, Ravi, you mentioned you joined Flipkart and then you also worked for Walmart, right? Which means you have worked for some of the biggest names in e-commerce and retail. So, looking from your standpoint for the next decade, how will AI shape the way we build, consumer-facing retail products and e-commerce products?
That's an interesting question, right? So if you see historically, retail is one domain where um, there's a lot of ML that's already at play in retail, right? If you
Hmm.
see about recommendations, ranking,
Hmm.
sales and forecasting, supply optimizations, there's an ML play there in retail since the inception of retail. So people
Hmm.
have been using ML models there, right? But
Hmm.
if you ask me how has it changed recently, so when I started my product management journey in 2021, right, there's already a lot of ML play that's there in the retail domain. But recently with the advent of generative AI, what are the existing problems that can be solved? So for example, how do you win in retail? For any company to win in retail, um, I'd say broadly they have to nail four things. One is you have to have a good assortment for people to buy for. The
Hmm.
second biggest lever is that you should make it easy for people to discover that assortment. And
Hmm.
the third biggest lever is that you have to make their decision to buy easier, right?
Hmm.
So you have to have assortment. People should discover the assortment. You should make it easier to
Hmm.
buy. And the last part is like you have to make the whole post transaction journey easier and efficient, like delivery and
Hmm.
all that, right?
Right.
So, but ML has already playing role in all of these, but there are few problems that the current existing ML systems haven't solved. For example, decision making, right? Decision making for the
Hmm.
user. The nuance here is that decision making involves a lot of knowledge, real
Hmm.
world knowledge, and
Hmm.
a lot of understanding of language. And that is where the
Hmm.
existing ML systems they aren't good at it, because the existing ML systems before the advent of Gen AI, what they used to do is you train them on a certain training data, and they'll
Mm,
just predict output based on the training data, right? But
mm,
they cannot in real time answer your questions from world knowledge, or they cannot in real time understand language and actually
mm,
get context out of that language. So that is what existing ML models weren't able to do. So
mm,
the recent change is what I started seeing mostly in the domain, is that how do we leverage this new capability that Gen AI has brought in, which is
mm,
actually you understand language, context, and
mm,
actually bring out of that. So a lot of applications started. I think across all the companies, what I say is the first application people started doing is that you summarize all the reviews, right? So in your decision
mm.
making,
Yeah,
what
yeah,
do
yeah.
you do?
That was one interesting update
Correct.
that came. Yeah.
You have to go through all the reviews manually and
Mm.
decide.
Right, right.
Now, how do we reduce it? How do we make it easier
Mm.
for customers? You just
Mm.
summarize what all the reviews
Mm.
are saying. So I think
Mm.
it adopted across Amazon,
Right,
Flipkart, Walmart, everyone
right,
adopted
right.
that. So that is a newer unlock
Mm.
that Gen AI has brought in.
Mm.
And there is one not so customer facing, but something that is very important in e-commerce is your catalog quality. Because see, all of these players are uh, sellers. You have sellers from third parties, right? They don't
Mm.
necessarily fill all the important details when you are creating an item, a listing.
Mm.
And
Mm.
that catalog quality is very important for actually uh, showing all the products you have. So for example, a user has searched for something. If you don't
Mm.
have catalog quality, how do
Mm.
you retrieve it and show to the users, right? So if
Mm.
you don't have enough catalog quality, even
Mm.
if you have relevant product, but you don't know that product is relevant for user is searching for, because you don't have
Mm.
all the keywords, the seller has not entered a great description. There are a lot of
Mm.
gaps in the catalog quality. So now what AI is doing is, in the application AI is doing, is that when seller is creating listing,
Mm.
people are assisting sellers to create all the information that is needed, or create a good
Mm.
description, so that
Mm.
when a relevant query has come, their product has to show. So that is
Mm.
what win for both an e-commerce company and a seller as well. They want their product to be
Mm.
discovered, they
Mm.
want the product transaction. So that is what is
Mm.
the goal, right?
Mm.
So I think AI is playing a big role in improving the catalog quality per se,
Okay.
creating good images. That is also important for
Okay.
a seller to get a conversion. So creating good
Mm.
images, good information of the product, catalog quality is another area where
Mm.
Gen AI has, in the last 2 3 years, there's a lot of practical application that is going on that front. um, Coming back to decision making, I think chatbot is something that has started to come up. Amazon,
Mm.
Walmart, Flipkart,
Mm.
everyone has started to introduce chatbots. But I would say chatbots are not there yet, because today chatbots generally, they rely on world knowledge,
Are
right? But
chatbots very reliable as a feature from, or let's say, user point of view? I guess user trust their own gut when they're searching for a particular product, right? Or do they actually leverage chatbot according to your experience as of now?
as of now, I say chatbots are not serving what they
Hmm.
are supposed to do.
Hmm.
See, people are trying it out as an application. If you go ahead
Hmm.
and search, let's say Amazon, or ask for a
Hmm.
question,
Hmm.
as a user, what
Hmm.
are you expecting out of chat? But see, if you want answer to a generic question, like
Hmm.
for example, which phone should I buy, right?
Right.
There's a lot of subjectivity involved
Hmm.
on this, and because e-commerce players have a play with sellers and you have to customers, how do you decide what is a right phone? Like when you say, if the user asks what is the right phone to buy, you have to look at different
Right.
dimensions and you have to explain to the
Budget,
user.
features.
Yeah, but features and all, but there are also a lot of subjective part. If you're ChatGPT or a Gemini, right, you
Hmm.
can just from all the blogs that you've scraped through, you just like summarize it and give an output. But as an e-commerce player, you have to give a final answer that is worthy of a user making a decision. For example, I have to say, okay, if you're
Hmm.
looking for best phone, this is the best phone. Like, how do you decide that is the best phone? So you have
Hmm.
to, it's a very subjective, right? So it's not there yet. So
Hmm.
currently, what they still do is they still rely on a lot of world knowledge to give
Hmm.
generic suggestions, but
Hmm.
to give specific answers to the users' questions, right? It's not
Hmm.
there yet, and it's a vague and ambiguous domain as well. Like
Hmm.
if you say you can suggest iPhone as the best phone, but Samsung would be angry, like why is
Mm,
Amazon suggesting iPhone as the best phone? Because there are pros and cons for both. So
mm,
which pro are you weighing more on? Which con are you weighing more on?
mm.
So there's a lot of ambiguity
I'm just
there.
trying to
I think
imagine the PRD if someone wants to work on this feature, the level of edge cases it should
correct.
have, right?
Right.
And the
There
level
are
of detail in PRDs would be there if someone wants to actually get onto this kind of project where he's working on how the user can, use a chatbot for searching his, purchase. So,
correct. Absolutely. Absolutely. So chatbots are where they are good at is giving you general information on what should I look at if I'm buying a mobile, or what features are important. But if you're asking for specific questions, I think that is where today's chatbots fail. Work is going on. I think
but
things
they're
will
not
get
there
better
yet,
soon.
right?
Yeah, they're not definitely there yet. Yeah, they're
Right.
not actually serving the user person. All this I could actually go ahead and do on a Gemini or a ChatGPT as well. Why
Mm,
do I need a chatbot on Amazon, or why do I need a chatbot on Walmart? So you have some unique perspective on these products, right? As an Amazon or a Walmart. So how do I bring my unique knowledge and serve customer? That
mm.
is not still there yet.
Actually, Ravi, influence, according to me, influence also plays a major part while purchasing, in the sense a lot of people review YouTube videos on that particular product before making a purchase, right? So that is
Yeah.
some of a angle which the e-commerce needs to look at, I guess, in a way, in order to actually, make that particular feature utilized to the best, is what I think,
Mhm.
right? Something which I am interested in from you is, as a seasoned
Mhm.
product manager, is the mental models you refer to, especially while taking tough product calls, bridging the user impact, the business needs, and also scaling the product at the same time. So, what are the usual go-to mental models you refer to?
Uh,
If
in
you,
the specific, uh, are we looking at specifically for AI products or in general?
in general, also, but specifically also talking, since we are going to build for the future with
Mhm.
regards to a product.
Right. Uh, so in general, right? So as a product manager, you are responsible for delivering impact. And when you say impact,
Mm,
there are two dimensions. One is, see, obviously a lot of chatter on the internet is about delivering customer value and all. But
mm,
in reality, when you are in the shoes of a real product manager, you think of,
mm,
I want to deliver a customer impact, but how does this customer impact translate into value for the company or value for the
mm,
organization? So
mm,
I think that two level of thought is important, not just delivering customer impact. So when so the mental model is always been, uh, how does the end goal is, how does whatever I'm
mm,
building, will it
mm,
serve the user and thus serve the goal of whatever the org goal that I have. So it
mm,
always is interdependent on those both things. Technical feasibility, see, technical feasibility, scale and all are the second level of the thought process. So for, you always start with what is the customer problem and then look at technical feasibility. There
mm,
are, because I've seen with the latest hype around AI, I see a lot of times we kind of tend to get carried away and think, where can I use AI to actually
right,
improve the customer experience? Even when we are
right.
previously looking at the e-commerce retail, right? We started
Mm,
with what are the problems that are there today? What is needed for an e-commerce company? I think it always start with customer problem first. And does solving that customer problem add any value to the company? I think
mm,
company or your team or whatever. So I think always start with that, and then start looking at, is AI really, if you want to actually want to build an AI product, is AI really necessary
mm, yeah,
to build this, right? A lot of
right.
times you don't actually need complex models. A lot of things can be solved using heuristics. A lot of things can be solved using simple systems, but don't over engineer. So technical feasibility and all
Mm,
comes into picture when you are thinking, like, I want to build a model that solves for this and all, right? But do you
mm,
actually need a model? A lot of time.
mm,
So sometimes when you're working with engineering and data science teams, right, they want to
mm,
optimize for exciting products to work on. So it's
mm,
exciting for them if it's building an AI model and
mm,
not just writing a heuristics to solve a particular problem.
mm,
There's always a tussle between product and engineering team, so, or the data science team. So it's, you as a product manager has to have that mental model of how do I create value efficiently. So we've
Mm,
always talked about creating value until now, but
mm,
you create value efficiently. The same problem, you identify right customer problem, but the same problem
mm,
could be solved using a small heuristic or could be solved using an building a complex model, right? So
mm,
it is your responsibility to actually take the strong stance on doing that efficiently, right?
mm,
Because there will always be opinions from data science teams or engineering teams. We are all stakeholders, right? What is the way
mm,
to solve for it? So I think efficiency and solving the right customer problem is always should be at the top of the mind as a
mm,
PM. Always fall
mm,
back to that mental model
mm.
is what I would say. Yeah.
Understood, understood. A lot of times, product manager needs to think whether we need AI or not. So it's kind of a AI gold rush going on where AI is being plugged on to almost every feature where it is
Yeah.
possible. And
Yeah.
it is hard to differentiate between the real stuff and the noise. So
Mhm.
how would you as a seasoned product manager think about this particular scenario going ahead? How should the builders build and differentiate between what's noise and what's not? What's worth building?
See, I think as a product manager, I would have my eyes and ears open to keep a tab on what is going on. To be
Mm,
honest, all the noise that is out there, uh,
mm,
there's nothing that's actually turned into a lot of value driven customer product yet, right?
mm,
So ChatGPT is one use case that it kind of replaced search to an extent, but
mm,
what all other problems it has solved yet, it's not they're not many or not anything at scale per se,
mm,
right? But as a product manager, what I would say is that today we don't have enough signals or enough information to say whether something is an hype, is just overhyped, or is it game changing yet.
mm,
Because there are certain constraints that are to be solved for these AI models to become game changers. The
mm,
top two constraints I would say are context length
mm.
and cost to serve. I think those two are the biggest constraints the AI models are facing today.
If you
For
can make it a bit in a very simpler language for our audiences,
yeah,
apart from being a product manager, that would be great. Yeah.
yeah. So when you want to build fraud, so when you want to solve for at scale, right? When you want to use AI models at scale to
Yeah.
solve for a particular customer problem,
Mm,
uh, it has to be the value it delivers. Uh, it has to be much higher than the cost you're spending to actually serve that AI model, right? Today,
mm,
for example, ChatGPT is really good at understanding what you're asking for, but can you actually use ChatGPT in search like Walmart, right?
mm,
Walmart app. You can so whenever when a user goes and searches for something, are you using their old models or are we using the ChatGPT API or Gemini API today? We are not,
mm,
because the cost to serve that one request is significantly higher today, right?
mm,
And at the scale, millions of queries that come in parallel at the scale of Amazon and Walmart, it
mm,
is literally impossible to employ such large language models at scale. So what we
mm,
generally all the industry generally is currently relying on is using smaller models. So
mm,
uh, while the AI models are really good today, they are very inefficient today. So
mm,
I think that they have to solve for efficiency. That is when
mm,
a lot of products can employ these models at scale, and that is when they can drive value. So
mm,
there's a lot of work that is going on in bringing the cost to serve down. I think
mm,
there will be a threshold where the models will be cheap enough to be used at scale and in API and all other companies, and that is where a significant amount of value will come in. But I think we have to keep our tabs on the industry, what is the research going on, and how is the
mm,
cost to serve coming down and all that. And that is when as a product manager you'll also make sane calls on, is it worth integrating this particular AI into my
mm,
feature? Because
mm,
if it's really too costly to serve,
mm,
then people, the conversion from, see, you can give it as a free trial for users in the beginning, but if it's actually not adding value as much as they're paying for the user, they will not actually
mm,
convert, right? So there's
mm,
no point in going hurriedly and integrating all the AI features unless they're cheap enough to serve and users actually get enough value if they interact with that AI feature. So as a product manager, you keep tab on that. Um, and the other problem I was talking about, context length, right? Today,
Mm,
as a user, you can uh, so you can talk to an AI model, but the next time you come and talk, you always start your conversation afresh. So the
mm,
AI models doesn't have this memory of what you are as a person. So every time I talk to an AI model, I have to give the whole context of my situation
mm,
again. So
mm,
for a lot of actual real world use cases, you want the
mm,
model to be omnipresent, right? So you
mm,
want it to know all your past context. That is when actually it delivers a lot on value. So I think
mm,
those two are the uh, bigger problems that are there, and fortunately a lot of work is going specifically on these fronts. So
mm.
I think let's just keep a tab rather than just judging on is this
Do
overhyped
do
or.
do product managers try to, although not the best word, choose the best word, imitate the industry leader in this regard? Because there's some kind of social proof there that if an industry
Mhm.
leader in that regard is actually using it at that level of scale, then it is safe to use, or let's say imitate that feature in our regard. Is it something which PM in retail or let's say e-commerce opt for, according to you?
See, I think that is where, as a PM, you have to take a strategic call because industry leaders they have enough cash to experiment,
Okay.
enough cash to burn upfront to see
Mm,
some if users are actually deriving value out of this feature or
mm,
not. But
mm,
um, see, today the thinking has changed in a way that I see all of these companies, industry leaders are treating the cost of failure is higher than cost of trying it out. Like, because all of these companies like Microsoft, a lot of these companies have burned their hands by not actually embracing technologies like mobile and all upfront, right? Like Microsoft would
mm,
have had their, but they weren't upfront very enthusiastic about it. But later when they came in, I think with
mm,
the AI rush, all of these companies who have burned their hands in different domains. For example, Google burned their hands by not venturing into social media
mm,
upfront. They were slightly later into the game, so they couldn't catch up. So today,
mm,
all of these companies they have these past injuries, and they know that
mm,
the cost of not trying is
mm,
failing. But
mm,
all of them are aggressively investing in this, whether they'd better fail rather than not try. So I think that is the kind of mindset that I see all of these companies are taking, so they can afford to do it. But as a PM in a startup or as a PM in a company that doesn't have as much deeper pockets, I think you have to be
mm,
very strategic in on what is important for your company at this point in time and take a call.
mm. Noted. Well noted, sir. So, Ravi, looking back at your experience as a seasoned product leader, there might be some roadblocks, some challenges which you face while building or shipping a AI feature in general, or let's say feature in general, which still stays with you today while you're devising, or let's say
Mhm.
strategizing a new feature while, as a product manager. So, if you can share that experience with us for the beginner or let's say aspiring product managers.
Uh, yeah, sure. So again, it goes back to the first thing. I think first thing you have to look at is, does this feature actually need AI? Right? I think that is very important to look at,
Mm,
because while it's sounds exciting to implement an AI feature, and we might feel that this actually solves the customer problem,
mm,
there are mistakes that I have personally done in the past, where not realizing that we don't have enough training data to solve the model for this particular use case. I think a lot of times upfront we'll think we'll apply AI here, but it is really important to understand the data that you have, right? Do I
mm,
have enough data for the model to be able to reliably predict or
mm,
reliably function in this
mm,
particular use case? So
mm,
uh, I think it's important to not burn hands by jumping into the training and training the model and later realizing that our training data is not good enough. So I think that is very important to understand whether your data is good enough for a model to learn in the first place, the
mm.
quantity and quality of the data. So that
Okay.
is very important. And another mistake that early or generally in early stages of product development we do is not defining the success metrics, or how do we measure the model, right?
Okay.
You let's say you have the data, you create a model, but
Mm.
how do you measure the model? So I mean, different
Mm.
models need different types of measurements. So generally, recall, precision are some standard metrics, but with these AI models, generally, I think measurement is a very tricky part, and the industry is also still
When you say
kind of.
measurement, what does it mean contextually for a broader audience
So
to understand?
So when you say measurement, it depends on the context of the model you're building. For example, let's say ChatGPT. Let's say you're building a chatbot, not ChatGPT. Amazon, you are building a chatbot, right? How
Mm.
do you measure that chatbot is doing well? Like that's a very
Mm.
tricky question, right?
Okay.
So engagement, user interaction is a
Mm.
metric to look at, but
Mm.
that is a function of how good the response of your model is, right? But how do you
Mm.
measure the response of your model? Right?
Mm.
Is not hallucinating. So there are
Mm.
new frameworks that we have to think through that are not existent today. Right? You have to um, take help of human annotators. You have to, but there's a cost involved in taking help of human annotators. So again, you have to build a framework on what type of questions you want to get human annotated to actually look at the performance of the model. So it's very vague and ambiguous today when you're building AI models, especially using generative AI models.
Mm.
Measurement is a black box today. A lot of teams are trying to figure out what are the right ways to measure and all. So yeah, that is one area. If you jump into it before thinking and strategizing, how do you measure it, right?
Mm.
You'll later ending up having a suboptimal model, and too late to actually change anything if you don't
So
have a
how do you
clarity on it.
ensure it right now that you've learned the hard lesson? How the measurement works for you while devising a new feature or let's say getting it live as a builder.
So, so as a PM, right? Because you own the success metrics, and the
Mm.
success metrics are dependent on the way you chose to measure. So in a way, you are defining your success. So it's also important that you don't get carried away and define easier success metrics so that you end up meeting your goals. So
Mm.
uh,
Huh.
so so the way to approach it is that
Mm.
in the user use cases, for example, if you're, let's say, the Amazon chat, let's say you're a product manager building the Amazon chatbot, right?
Mm.
You think of what does success for this product mean for you. For me, let's say in this V1 version, for me, if success means for users asking questions on general knowledge, right? If I'm
Mm.
able to serve, if my model doesn't hallucinate, if I'm able to serve a decent answer, like again, it's very tricky today,
Mm.
like evaluating the answer, because it can be subjectively from poor to good and excellent, because these are not right or wrong answers, right? The model can give
Mm.
uh, a particular model or a uh, particular answer to a particular question, but it's not always black and white. So you
Mm.
have to define uh, how the human annotators you employ for this particular evaluation rates them,
Mm.
right? So you have to
Mm.
decide on every individual use case. For example, for queries where user is looking for a specific product,
Mm.
right? Do I want to do it good in this first instance, or
Mm.
maybe that is not something I am optimizing this model for now. For example, if a user is asking, what are all the memory options available for iPhone, am I giving all the right answers? That's a very specific product use case. And
Mm.
there will be other use cases, like if a user is asking, what are the types of bed sheets available, right? So that's a
Mm.
very broad general question, right?
Mm.
So you have to define those use case, and you have to define your own success metric, right?
Mm.
What if you are trying to solve for broader use case in this first V1 model?
Mm.
Then you need to be very clear in the evaluation. You have to define. I've seen people jumping into building models, not thinking enough about how do we evaluate once we have the model. So
Mm.
uh, it is important that you have a strong framework established before you actually go ahead and build the model. On once the model is ready, how do you
Mm.
evaluate the model? There's no
Mm.
right or wrong today, because every team I know is actually new to this, and they are also trying different ways
Mm.
on how to evaluate the model. So
They're
there's
figuring
no,
out.
they're figuring out. Yeah, there's
Mm.
no established way in the market today. People are
Mm.
figuring out, but it's
Mm.
important that we think of it upfront, because
Mm.
once the model is there, how do you evaluate it, right? How do you measure the success? So that's important.
Mm. Also, in
Yeah.
between all this, product management as a role, a lot of people come from different background. Like not everyone is from technical background or a B Tech or engineer, right? They come from ops, they come from design, they come from sales too, right? So point
Mm.
being, is the next decade more tech heavy, going to be more tech heavy or tech oriented for the product managers? And if it is so, how can someone from a non-tech background prepare for it? Specifically, if you can tell us three or four tips or advice.
Uh, I definitely see product management being more AI heavy. I wouldn't say tech heavy.
Okay.
So tech heavy and AI heavy are very different. Tech heavy, you
Okay.
need understanding of systems and all, but because every product is going to be AI heavy, have some angle of AI involved in every product.
Hmm.
So as a product manager, you are responsible for the success of the product. So if you want the product to be successful, you have to understand what makes the product successful, right? So if you are employing AI in the product, right,
Hmm.
it is it is necessary for you to understand what makes an AI model good. Again, measurement, how do you train the training data, what models to be used. While data science teams or the machine learning teams, you can rely on them, but for you, it is important to understand those nuances so that you can have a meaningful discussion with them, right? If you
Hmm.
don't understand what is the importance of training data, you can't push
Hmm.
them to actually get the good training data and train the model, right? So if you don't understand what is the right way to measure, or how do you measure, right, you can't push them to build systems that establish uh, the measurement frameworks.
So will
Or
that
if you
come
don't,
from experience only as a product manager, or can someone do something else on the
I
side,
think
learning part
uh,
or something else?
there are two ways. One is there's so much information available on the internet. Go ahead and do a lot. I'll definitely recommend everyone do basic AI courses so that you have a basic understanding of how an AI model is trained, what an AI model is, what is regression,
Hmm.
what is neural networks. I think this basic understanding, I think every PM should have
Hmm.
from now, because that is when they'll understand when when an ML engineer says I'm training a model. What is your mental model? Like, what is a training model? What does it look like? Training a model means to have that mental model. You understand
Hmm.
uh, what actually is machine learning, how it is trained, and all. And the second way is like keep your ego aside, say that you're dumb, go ahead and talk to your data scientist. I know you're talking all of this, but it's like going through my head. Like, I teach me from first principles. Like, what is this?
Yeah.
Go ahead, like accept that you're dumb. If you don't have, you understand certain terminology that they are using, keep your ego aside, talk to people,
Hmm.
get clarity. Like, once you build intuition around a lot of these things, and that is when you can actually make meaningful decisions also. Because if you don't have intuition, right, it's really difficult as a
Hmm.
product manager to make decisions on when a product is being built, or whether can I apply this to my product or not. People will come up with a
Hmm.
lot of ideas, but whether to employ for example, for the most fundamental question, whether to employ AI to your product or not, or use AI in your product or not, you need to have an understanding of what AI can do. If you don't
Hmm.
have that, to understand what AI can do, you need to understand what are the limitations of AI, and
Hmm.
limitations of data, whatever, right? So to understand that limitations, you need to understand the whole stack. So I think that is it's
Hmm.
very important for PMs these days to have a strong grip on fundamentals at least.
Hmm.
That is what.
Fundamentals of
Yeah.
data and AI, right?
Fundamentals of data per se is okay, but how AI works, like how
Hmm.
models are trained, how AI works, what goes into training a model, right?
Hmm.
Those There's a lot of courses out there. There's a lot of Stanford courses that teaches you fundamentals of all AI models and all.
Hmm.
There's deeplearning.ai where there's a lot of free
Hmm.
resources where people can go and learn. So I think it's imperative that now that PMs should have understanding of all these AI concepts at least. Yeah.
Right. Sir, coming on to the last question of our podcast, I wanted to ask, there are a lot of aspiring product managers who actually view our podcast, follow us, and who actually would love to be someday at your level experience, and at your seat working for Google, right? It's a dream job for a lot of people. So, if you were an aspiring product manager today, what would be your three piece of advice for them? especially since you feel you did not know earlier and know now? How would you begin today?
Um, I think it hasn't changed much since the day I got into product management. I think as a
Mm,
product manager, you have to build a mindset of being very incredibly truth seeking. I think irrespective of whether AI takes over or not, I think as a product manager,
mm,
a lot of people think that product manager role is about being a CEO of the product or owning their decisions and all. But from my perspective, I say product manager is an incredible
mm,
truth seeker. So
mm,
a lot of times you don't get to take calls, but as a product manager, you're successful if you know or you have put up your point or took a strong stance that leadership is taking this call, but this call won't work. If you have that stance, see, it's okay, you might go ahead and implement that because leadership wanted you to do. But if as a product manager, if you had that stance upfront, if you had communicated it to the leadership that you're
mm,
asking me to do this, I'm doing it, but I think this won't work, because you know for a fact that from whatever the truth seeking that you did, this won't work. So as a product manager, always be truth seeking. Don't think that I will own all the decisions, I'll go ahead and implement this.
mm,
So if you have been truth seeking enough, and if you have a strong opinion on what is the right thing to do, I think you're successful as a product manager, rather than taking decisions and all. I think that is one thing I would always say. Be incredibly truth seeking is important for a product manager. uh, and the second important piece of advice is that, which again is more fundamental in nature, rather than taking into consideration all the AI noise that's out there, being high agency, right? As a product manager, you are supposed to get stuff done. So what technology you employ, what do you do and all, is what is important is reach the end goal, get stuff done, is very important. Advice I would always give is product management, the most important thing is being high
agent.
agency, right? So you are supposed to, irrespective of what technology you use or what frameworks you use, everything doesn't matter if you're not delivering on the customer outcomes, which
Mm,
also leads to company outcomes, which is very important. So uh, I think as a product manager, you have to be the go-to person. So you should operate with this in mind, that you have to be the go-to person for your product. If someone goes to your manager and asks for something, right, the manager should be confidently able to say, "Hey, Ravi or Varun will be able to get that done." So you
mm,
have to be that high agency, because product thinking and all is very strategic in nature. But
mm,
if that doesn't result in outcomes, or if doesn't result in at least not outcomes. Outcomes are not always probably dependent on purely product strategy, but you'll have a lot of outputs, at least having a strong product opinion, driving things, and that is where you actually showcase your product fluency, I would say. So incredibly truth seeking and having high agency are very important as a
mm,
product manager. These
mm,
two, if you are good in these two, I think 60 to 70% of times they will result in outcomes, not 100% times, because outcomes have a lot of other factors. But even the 40% of times that you did not succeed in delivering outcomes,
mm,
you being truth seeking, you being high agency will actually stand out, because you have shown good, product work there. That is what matters at the end of the day.
mm.
So
Right.
stick to the fundamentals is what I will say. Uh, Truth seeking and high agency are the fundamentals for product.
Hmm. Mostly, in most of the cases, one try gets to realize both these qualities only one after they have entered into the corporate, right? Not before that. I mean, like as a student, it's very hard to understand. Although agency think, yeah, we can definitely connect. And the first one you said, truth seeking. That is the most important part because people try to digress to some other strategy in order to cover up their own sometimes the painful truths, right? With a
Yeah,
product manager,
yeah.
even I agree. One has to be truth seeking and one has to be introspective and one has to learn through pains, is what I feel. That is a very important quality.
I think you have to be thick-skinned for that,
Yeah, yeah,
and I think it'll come with experience, right?
yeah.
After some failures, and you'll go back and see what would have you done, right? That's when you'd actually realized I didn't seek truth enough in that particular instance. That is why I make this suboptimal decision. So because it comes with experience. Yeah.
Right. Any particular books you read in order to increase your truth serum? Are there any books you would like to recommend?
So honestly, I don't read books much. But for me, when I just started my product journey, I was going through so many blogs, so many videos.
Hmm.
I've read a couple of books also. I think I don't remember the name, but I've read a lot of books also. But I felt Shreyas Doshi on X
Hmm.
is
Yeah.
one high density
Yeah.
um, resource, I would say,
Right.
is enough, rather than going through multiple noise resources, I
Hmm.
would say. So lately, since last 1.5 2 years, I just stick to what Shreyas is tweeting, or if Shreyas is putting up some videos, I think that's enough for me personally, I would
Agree.
say. Yeah,
Agree.
rather than going through so many resources, stick to one. And I say following whatever Shreyas says has personally led to better outcomes in how
Hmm.
I drive my products. Yeah, I would say that that is one resource I would weigh on heavily, rather than doing so reading so many things, or watching so many videos and all.
I
So
agree. I guess he's the Naval Ravikant of product management, is
yeah,
what I
yeah,
feel. Even like the way he summarizes so much truth in just a tweet, it's actually amazing, and that takes
yes,
years of experience,
yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, those are
Um,
things that you would have maybe gotten insights after 10 years, spending 10 years in product. Those insights you're getting for free from Shreya. So no point in looking elsewhere.
he also has a course, I guess, on his
Yes, of
website.
course. Yeah, but it's mostly for senior PMs from what I know. I
Acha.
haven't taken the course, but I've heard great reviews for those courses. So, I mean, if anyone wants to go ahead and take that, I would say
Yeah,
it would be
totally,
great. Yeah.
totally. Well, that wraps up the session, sir. Thanks a lot for your time, and
Uh,
thanks a lot for your wisdom and experience which you dissipated right now, being the SPM and having such a rich experience across e-commerce and retail. Looking forward to the more conversation with you on this podcast.
sure. I mean, I hope this will be helpful for a few folks at least. So that will be success for me on this podcast. Yeah.
Surely, surely, we'll update you on this. Thank you, sir.
Sure.
Thanks a lot.
All right.